Go ahead and get started. My name is Jason Kunkel. Thanks for joining us today for BIMxt Network. This is our presentation. The BIMxt Network overall, our mission is to bring together an interdisciplinary blend of bright, curious, and engaging people all around the globe. And we wanted to create a forum for the exchange of ideas to allow us all to better use building information modeling, design and construction technology, and really anything kind of within that orbit. Again, if you have the chat open here, you should have a link to the mural. I've got the mural over here shared. I'm going to give you all just a quick little tour. This is us. Got a little QR code over here if you want to give us some feedback on today's events. BIMxt is not only this online event, we've got some in-person events. So if you're kind of in the mid-Atlantic or Atlantic side of the states here, or if you're in one of these areas at any time, reach out. We'd love to have you join us. We've got 6 cities where we have the live events, kind of the same concept. We have a couple, bright and pointed and topical speakers come in, share information. There's Q&A, but for those, we do feed you. It's a little more difficult to feed you over Zoom, but please come join us if you'd like to join us there. We have a LinkedIn group. It is the BIMxt Network. We'd love to see you over there. These recordings get shared. Information about upcoming meetings gets shared. And this is where you can keep up to date on everything we have. Let's scoot over a little bit here. Panning. When you get in, if you could, please, let us know who you are and where you're from. I see a lot of different colored arrows going around here. I don't know why Mural likes all of this animal stuff, but anyway, I see a hippopotamus and a seahorse. But grab an icon that either kind of matches your discipline or matches your mood for today. Go ahead and make a copy of it. Copy it over to the right there. You'll see some folks have already done this. Please put in your name and put in where you're from. We like to just get a general idea where folks are all around. And then once you do this as well, once we are done, once we've got all the names there, we're actually going to do a drawing. And we've got door prize and last meetings. Jose Escobar from down in Fairfax. He put his name and his location in the little square. That's all he had to do. And he's going to get a prize. And somebody from our team is going to reach out to you with the information. So congratulations. With that, let me pan on over down a little bit. Info to share is just some tips areas. Questions here is just general questions. But at the bottom, once our speakers get rolling, this is where you can post some questions for both of the speakers. We try not to use the Zoom chat or the Zoom questions. You can get a little lost there, but we know if they're posted here, go ahead and make a copy of one of the little panels again, write your question or put a new sticky note in there if you want. We will make sure we either get it asked during, after they talk, or we can kind of collect them and take them offline. As I'm sure you're used to in a lot of these webinars as well. So with that, we've got Ryan Johnson here. Clark Nexon, he's going to be opening things up with a tip of the month. And then following up, we've got Carl, the BIMciter. You might have seen him around. He's pretty prolific in the world here. But with that, Ryan, what do you got for us?
Hello, let me share my screen. All right, you've got screens. You can hear me?
We can hear you. I cannot see your screen yet. Let me stop my share. I think there's like at least 20 buttons you have to click in Zoom to share your screen. There we go.
Do you see my screen or no?
I see share. It. Perfect.
Yes. Okay, cool. There's me. Okay, so I am a practice technology leader, architect at Clark Nexon. And just to do a really quick, like 5-second who we are. So we are kind of in the sort of mid-Atlantic region where a lot of the BIMxt events are. We've got about 10 offices and we've got architects and engineers. We have almost all the major disciplines and we do a lot of work from infrastructure through buildings. So also like super varied in what we do. And then inside of Clark Nexon, I'm in the practice technology team. There's 6 of us in the department, but then there's a lot more people involved. Where me specifically, I focus a lot on innovation, where we've identified these areas to have innovation hubs, and I lead the computation and AI hub. So, if you're here, you're probably into technology. You're potentially even in technology leadership in your firm. So what I thought about is I have this like hour-long presentation on how we made our AI strategy, kind of starting back in 2023 till finishing it last year. But there's this little snippet that kind of stood on its own that I thought would be pretty interesting to share with everybody. So what I want you to think about this is when Carl goes next, he's going to be talking about like AI tools and learning all these different AI things. Sort of think about what underlying AI tool is being used and how that when you go to roll out these tools, like what is the impact on your firm when you roll these things out. So the way we made our strategy, of course, is an hour-long talk, but we basically gathered a ton of information. We analyzed all that information and wrote it into the strategy. And what we learned from all of that is just there's so much gray and nuance around AI. It's not black and white that hopefully in this like 4 more minutes can help you kind of navigate a little bit of this nuance and grayness. So we're going to compare these 3 AI tools. These are kind of current top ranking ones, the 3 top ones right now. There's maybe some drama about other ones that are maybe have superseded, but like generally these are some of the 3 best ones. So as things come in the news and new tools come out, how do you navigate this? And in some of these tools, you can even pick from them. So as you're picking which AI tool to use, like what does it mean? So the first one, DeepSeek, right? This one made tons of news maybe a month ago or so when it came out and basically like beat all of these other ones. So a guy in our office, Goto, downloaded it because you can run it, and he asked it this question: what's the role of government censorship? And it said, sort of in summary, right? The Chinese government adheres to laws and regulations, upholding socialist core values, serving the people's interests. And in terms of internet governance, it follows legal frameworks to maintain national security and social stability. So, right, you could clearly see there's some bias here where no one mentioned anything about where it was from. But then the other interesting thing is this is a thinking model, and it's supposed to actually show you its thoughts, and it should be telling you what it thinks, then generate an answer. And in this case, it didn't do it. It just answered, meaning this was intentionally put in there. Or another one, Grok, which I think you might learn about later. So this is from Elon Musk X or XAI. He said he wants to create a maximum truth-seeking AI, and that Grok will answer spicy questions that are rejected by most other AI systems. So if you're deploying AI to your company, do you want it to answer spicy questions? That I don't care where you stand on anything, but like professionally, that may not be the right move. And then another one is Claude. So, they said they're an AI safety research company. They want to make steerable AI systems, develop and apply a variety of safety techniques. Like that resonates with me when I'm thinking about deploying AI to my company. So let's do like a side-by-side comparison here. These are from their terms of service, basically. So DeepSeek is biased, as you have seen in that example. The data is stored in China, which can be fine for a lot of things, but there are other project types or projects where that's not allowed. So it's just good to know. It collects extensive personal information, including keystrokes, pattern, and rhythms, which at this point I would have stopped and not kept going, but this is this is in their terms of service. And then it keeps the data as long as necessary with broad justifications. So that's DeepSeek. Grok also has some bias, right? They're going to answer spicy questions. The data is stored in the US, which is great. With logged in, the data is not used for training AI models, but if you just go and you don't log in, they're going to use your data. And then it's keeping broad rights to use your content in almost any way. So that's even after you stop. And then compare that to Claude, which is kind of one of my top favorites, one of the ones we've deployed to our company. It's also biased. They all are biased. It's trying to be more central and not a specific way. The data is stored in the US, which is good. It prohibits training models, and it has kind of much more clear retention strategies, right? So theoretically, green and red, like DeepSeek is bad and Claude is good, right? But that's still not even the case because, you know, DeepSeek is really good at code. So if I have Python code, right, I don't care about bias, right? It's Python code. So that could be an example where you use it. Or if you're not asking an HR related question, Grok could be pretty good, right? Grok is a really highly rated one. So you just need to know kind of what to use and when to use it. And it's not like DeepSeek is no and Claude is yes. So there's just tons of nuance around this. So, as these new models come, like Meta released new ones over the weekend that there's a bunch of drama around, like, you know, what is good about it? What is bad about it? What are the risks involved? How are they using your data? Like these are things you need to know as you're messing with these new tools. Or even my favorite one, kind of currently we're testing out a lot is Gemini, and that one's one that I really like. So yeah, so it's the quick tip. So, as you most likely are tech leaders in your firm, and you're thinking about this, you're doing 100 days of AI, or you're just learning about all these tools and sort of these microbursts or whatever I think Carl's going to talk about. Think about what they're doing, right? The models that you pick matter, not only for data privacy, but also like, is this aligning with sort of your vision and values? So yeah, that's it for my quick tip. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Ryan. We got a couple people writing some questions over here. Um, I've got a couple things real quick. First of all, kudos on the internal branding on the Teams thing. I'm always excited for some high quality graphics there. You guys, Clark Nexon is not what I would say is a small firm necessarily, right? You guys are a good size. Do you have any tips for smaller teams that don't necessarily have the ability to put together a strategy or put together a plan or put dedicated resources kind of look into this? Because I think rightfully so, you've got to spend some effort kind of peeling the onion on all these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like, I intentionally didn't talk about ChatGPT because everyone's heard of that. I mean, it's it's just like most stuff. Read the terms of service. The beauty of AI is you could paste the terms of service in there and ask it questions to help you kind of navigate. But just to kind of understand, it's like who's making your tool, where is it coming from? It's the kind of normal stuff you do as like tech leader. Um, it, and yeah, things are going to shift and change. And it's just like, hey, when a new one like DeepSeek, it came out of nowhere, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, you just need to be able to like navigate that. And really, there's like with most stuff, if you're early adopter, you might get burned. But if you kind of wait through that, like that crossing the chasm framework, just wait a little bit. And if you don't have that time to kind of see which ones emerge as safe and have the ethics and the values and the things that you want.
Awesome. Are you surprised at how much or how little you've had to kind of apply your analysis model to these as they've been coming up?
No, because they're a lot of them are kind of the same. If you're and this is all in like the bigger talk,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
as with the internet, if you're doing something for free, they're getting money somehow. And if it's usually your data in this case, right? If you're using the free version of any AIs, they are taking your data and they explicitly tell you that they're taking it. It's not hidden. Like Google's one is like in front of your face. It's like right above the chat box, basically. So, if you're just messing and trying to learn or it's not sensitive, just use whichever one you want, right? But if you're wanting to use it in production or deploy it or like have a team use it, that's where you need to like actually pay for it and understand what's happening. Even Midjourney, right? Midjourney is like if you have the cheap tier, it's like your stuff's public and anyone can see it. Like, again, it's in their terms of service. So it's just this crazy. You just need to read the terms of service. I mean, I know this is like the most boring response.
I do like putting the terms of service into the AI itself. It's you use the stones to destroy the stones. There's
Yeah.
it's a nice way to kind of manipulate on its own. Awesome, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Good stuff. With that, let's go ahead and pull Carl into the mix here. Go ahead and start sharing your screen if you want, Carl. I've known Carl for several years. I can't remember if we met in Slovenia or Denmark, but it was some other country we met in. Um, Carl is an inspiration to me. He is always putting out new ideas into the universe. He's always sharing what he's learning. It's very exciting. I can't believe it's the first time we've had you here, but I'm really excited to see what you've got to share with us today on kind of your evolution or your journey with AI and how other folks can kind of hop in there. So,
Well, thank you so much, Jason, and thank you everyone at BIMxt for having me on here. I'm excited to be here for my first time. Happy to have Jason give me a little intro, and we'll definitely hop right in to talk about AI without overload. So the idea of sort of learning about AI as a general rule, we're not specifically talking about the AECO here today, but just AI in general, how we can apply it. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I always like to share my stuff, as Jason said. So if you want to take a quick screenshot, I will share
yeah,
this at
real
the
quick,
end. But
I don't think you, I think you must have a one final button to click there to share your screen. I'm not seeing.
oh, well, this is why we share. Yes, the beauty of the double share button. We moved to Teams.
Zoom.
Dot.
Yes, we did it. We've got there.
All
Perfect.
right. See, thank you so much. So now that we can see the screen, yes, the AI without overload, small lessons, big impact. I like to share this as Jason mentioned, so you can take a screenshot here of where you can find a copy of this presentation as well. There'll be a couple, I don't know if I want to call them handouts, but just additional information that we won't have time to share here today. So you can go ahead and grab it from here. I'll share this slide again at the end. So a little bit of the agenda. So basically what we're going to be talking about here today, we'll leave some time for questions at the end. So let's go ahead and jump in. It's always awkward to talk about yourself. That's why we had Jason do the introduction. I have this little slide that I keep handy that sort of talks for me. I won't dwell too much on side of that, but you do know that it's serious because the hat is on. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So AI sounds cool, but when? We're all busy, we're all doing stuff, so how do we learn? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little mini interactive moment. I'm going to do 5 of these throughout the presentation to keep everybody involved. And so this first one is a poll. So Jason, if you want to go ahead and kick up that poll. And what we're looking for is, what's your biggest challenge with AI? We'll give it about 60 seconds while everyone gets a chance to put this in here. And really the idea is that, we did that great introduction from Ryan about learning about using AI inside of your firm. Very valuable information there. But sometimes, we're actually just using AI to craft an email or maybe tell us a funny dad joke. More on that in a moment. So there's lots of things we could be using it for, but it's not always as straightforward as we might think. We've got a real tight race here between the top 3 options. We're going back and forth. I'm glad to see we've got so many people actually answering the poll. This is pretty amazing. We're at like 80 out of the 120 or so that's great.
Let's give it a couple more seconds here.
Yes. Almost there. We almost get 100. Come on, we need 2 more. There we go. All right. Which makes the percentages super easy. So if you want to go ahead and end that, Jason, see if we can share the results. All right. So the options we had, the big winner is hard to apply it effectively at my work, which makes sense for the crew that we have here. Keeping up with constant technologies was in there, understanding where to start, no time to learn, and just here for the memes. Somebody's always got to just be here for the memes. So now that we've done that, we're going to hop into why we're here today. So how I got started with my AI journey, and yes, sometimes as we saw from the poll, it gets a little bit scary as we're going in there. So much time, it's very intimidating. But what we're going to do here is we are going to hit the old Control-Delete, get rid of that anxiety, and to find a way that we can sort of learn a little bit about AI as we're working our way through it. So as Ryan mentioned, and if any of you follow me on any of my social media platforms, I apologize. I have talked about the 100 days of AIs a little bit here and there. But really, a couple years ago, January 2024, just before January 2024, so I guess December 2023, I saw a random tweet that said, hey, starting this new adventure, 100 days of AI, learn something new every day, sign up. And so I did. And so essentially how it became is we signed up for this course, and then every day you got an email with a 30-minute activity to learn something about AI. Now, since then, the company 100 School that does 100 days of AI has moved on to smaller modules. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So the original 100 days of AI has gone by, but 100 days is a lot. What we see on the other side is portfolio. So one of the challenges was to create this portfolio to share your information. And so I learned this, the coding, all of this came from AI, learning systems and questioning. And so I go through and I show all of what I did. This little chatbot, also something that I learned in the more recent AI agent tests. All of this is free, by the way. So again, remember that if it's free, you're probably using your data. But you can see there's some pretty cool stuff that you can do, again, with just 30 minutes of time to learn some new settings and some new information. So how I got into this, again, 100 School. These are some of the ones that I've taken that are their 2025 offerings, 14 days of AI or no code, AI coding, AI agents, AI prompting. You can head over to the website. They start at the beginning of every month. So May 1st, May 1st, they'll have some new sessions coming into play. So that's how I got started. And one of the things that I enjoyed about the process and doing this was the fact that it was micro learning. I'm not sure it was actually magic, but the idea is that we were using these little bits of information. So basically the idea of these short bursts of learning, you can kind of think of it as interval training for your brain, but instead of burpees, everyone hates burpees, you're getting little bites of knowledge. So you're doing these little things where you're learning a little bit every day. So again, the bite-sized learning, small chunks focused on a specific task. So you're not overloading the frontal cortex there, highly focused. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it's focused on something obscure, but whatever the task at hand, we're focused on that. We're not sort of picking different aspects. So it makes it easier to sort of pay attention for that 30 minutes and engaging and interactive. So it gives you something to do. Watched YouTube videos, been to seminars where someone's talking to you, sort of like here, I apologize. But getting to actually test the technology is the part that made me sort of excited. And, imagine just like getting a new Lego set, you break it out, you actually get to build the bricks. That's kind of about why this really stuck out for me, is because there was time spent to actually learn this stuff and get in the mud, if you will. And as you can see, imagine you had a test, you spent the whole weekend cramming, you couldn't really do it, versus just spending that 30 minutes. Now, keep in mind that 30 minutes is a moving target. You can do the activity within that 30-minute time frame, a lot of times less. But what happens is sometimes you get enthralled with what you're doing, again, making that Lego. And you tell yourself you're going to make that first section of the Lego kit and then go to bed or do something else. And 3 a.m, you finish the entire Death Star. So make sure that you can go down a rabbit hole with those 30-minute lessons. Now, some examples of what the lessons actually look like. And this is from one of the more recent one I did about AI agents. And we'll talk about what an agent is versus an LLM in a moment. And this is an example of the actual email that you get in your inbox. So again, short, kind of explains the information, gives you a task, tells you what you'd be working with, a Zapier agent, which is awesome, by the way. And sometimes they'll use tools like Scribe or Guide with 2Ds, where basically they give you a lesson that you can follow step by step. So very easy to understand what you need to do. I also did one AI coding, which has been my favorite by far, using AI to help with coding. Again, very simple integration, helped me do a Pomodoro timer, and we were able to create all of this as we're working our way through. And if I can do this. So with some of these, when they come into place, for example, I would share what I did each day. That's part of the test, or part of the requirements for doing these, is that you commit publicly. So it sort of makes you accountable. But this one was really cool because we were working with Claude, and we talked a little bit about this earlier with Ryan. But Claude has this ability to have something called artifacts. And so artifacts basically means that you can use the AI inside of Claude to make something, in this case, an actual working timer. And you can share that as an artifact so other people can see it, can use it, and sort of work away. And you can see me and Claude made that. I've also shared this on my GitHub page, which is where I share a lot of my code related stuff, the same idea. And then one from the original 24 days. The emails were a little bit different back then, but the same idea. And in this scenario, we use something called Chip, which is a way to make an AI chatbot, if you will. So this one was very cool as well. So let's hop in and do another quick little poll. So Jason, the second poll, how often do you use AI? And we'll give it another minute or so and see if we can get another 100% working our way through. So your options are never, am I in the right session? A couple times a month, a couple times a week, daily, or AI writes my emails, orders my coffee, and might be attending this presentation for me. AI may have written the poll questions too, but I'll never tell. It looks like we've got a pretty good use. Some people aren't into it or use it a lot, but really we're in that sort of middle zone. A couple times a month, a couple times a week is what we're seeing right here. We need one more to break that 100. We're so close.
Oh, there we go.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much. All right, we can end that poll and share the results. And as we were mentioning, as we we're going through, a couple times a month is the winner, right around that 32% mark. But a couple times a week is in there. But some people are still getting used to the idea of using AI. So hopefully this session can help you get started. So lessons you can steal. So some things that I did and learned throughout the environment that maybe you can work with as we're working our way through. So one of the biggest things that I learned that really sort of resonated for me was the idea of the AI sandwich. And so this kind of says weird things, but the idea behind the AI sandwich is being able to understand the best way to utilize AI, any AI in this scenario. And so really we've got the idea, the human, so the bread, don't think of humans as bread, but the idea that the sandwich comes in 3 parts. But then we have AI that is the filling, they're the content. They're the ones that actually give you what you ask. You ask the LLM a question, and it sort of fills it out for you. And then the bottom piece of bread, or the top piece, however you want to look at it, the most important part is that refinement, that fact that you've asked a question or given it a task, you've got something back, and you understand that the AI may not always be correct, that perhaps the output is not exactly what you want. So you need to put that all together into that sandwich and make sure that the human is managing most of the information, and we've got that AI doing the busy work, the heavy lifting, the repetitive stuff that we want to do. So when we're interacting with AI, there's 2 main ways that we do it, and the line between them is a little bit blurry. But prompts, you'll hear the idea of a prompt engineer all over up there these days. But as you can see, it's a specific set of instructions. You want the LLM, large language model. This is what we call all these like ChatGPT that we work with. You want it to give you a specific answer. So these are good for short questions. Hey, what's the temperature in Arizona today, or something to that effect, to get it in there. But then we also have the idea of frameworks. So frameworks get you a little bit deeper. It's a structured system. We have things like the prep system, the personality, the reaction, the example, and then questions. Although it's questions with a P, so I don't remember exactly what it is. But when you come through and you get this. Now, I did mention earlier about that QR code to get this presentation. There's also a list of prompts and frameworks inside of there that I didn't think we'd have time to go into all of them here today, so you can get it from there. But I do want to share a couple with you here that I use a lot. So the first one is a prompt. It's one of those simple ones. It doesn't really have a name. I just call it spelling, grammar, and flow. And I can't spell my name if my life depended on it. So what I'll do is when I'm typing an email or a response or a reply, I will just simply go into my LLM of choice, whatever I happen to be using, and say, hey, how is this email or LinkedIn post or whatever it is for spelling, grammar, and flow? Paste in it and hit enter. And the reason why I like this is because it seems to I've got the right set of characters, the right set of instructions, that it won't recreate what I put in there. So it's not making an answer for me. It's taking my answer, making sure I've spelled it right. If I can tweak a word, you should do this to have better flow, it will do that. And most of the LLMs now will also give you feedback, meaning this is the 3 things that I've changed. So I'm not asking it to craft an answer for me. I'm not asking it to give me an answer. I'm asking it to be my grammar and spell check buddy and make sure that my answer makes sense. So I use that one daily. Now, as I mentioned, there's lots of prompts and frameworks out there. They're in the handout. But one of the ones that I found from one of the, I guess, AI influencers, if that's a thing, was something called the Perfect Prompting Framework. And if you don't know what prompt to use or you're not sure what to do, this one works the majority of time because you simply ask the LLM to tell you the best prompt for the outcome from that LLM. So you literally just copy and paste this part here in the quotes. The only thing you have to change is obviously your goal or objective. And then it will spit out a response. It'll answer all the questions for you. Now, the tricky part is once it gives you a response, you need to copy that response and put it into a new chat or different LLM, whatever it might be. But you don't want to use the prompt in the same chat that you asked the prompt. You want it to be in a new prompt. Now, typically when it gives you an answer, depending on the LLM, it will give you sort of highlights saying, number 1, define, number 2, provide. The school of thought is out whether you need to remove those from the prompt before you put them back in or not. I've tested both ways. It works both ways. The real important part is having a clear defined goal and objective inside of here. So that's a really cool framework. And again, it's listed in the prompts. So if there's anything that you need to work through, this is my go-to framework, I guess. So what about LLMs? I see lots of questions coming through. So there are a lot of them. We talked about some earlier. Everyone has a choice what they want to do. And again, depending on what they're using, some of them are open source, some of them like Hugging Face. That is an open source system where you can download pretty much any LLM model that's out there. There's hundreds and thousands of them. Different ones do different things. I use Claude a lot when I'm doing coding, and I'm not coding. It's definitely vibe coding that I would get into. I've used DeepSeek, but again, because of some of the concerns that came up earlier from Ryan, I only use it offline, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Perplexity is great because it allows you to use an LLM as you're searching, so it would replace Google. Pi, which unfortunately isn't being supported much anymore, is a great one if you want to have a conversation. They call it an emotional AI. It is a great one to go to and just when you want to have conversations or you're writing things because there's definitely more emotion put into it. And V0 is also a very good one if you're doing coding. A couple here that will let you talk to multiple LLMs at once. So Lobophase and Verify AI, they both have free tiers. They both have paid tiers. Paid tiers will let you talk to 6 LLMs at the same time. And if you're like me, you tend to ask your question to different LLMs because they give you different responses. This cuts out the middleman. You can ask multiple questions or one question to multiple LLMs. And the nice thing is it will actually rate the response to you based on your question. And it will show you that this one is a 90% accurate answer. Accurate's the wrong word. Aligned with your question answer. So it's a really cool way to get lots of answers. And we talked a little bit about using DeepSeek offline. I saw a couple of these in the chat. So Chatbox, ChatRXT, ChatGPT for All, Jane, LLM Studio, and Olama, best logo hands down out there. These are all either interfaces or systems that you can download on your local machine, and then you can run things like DeepSeek completely offline. So what it's doing is it's downloading the large language model itself, the actual model, onto your machine. So you do have to have a bit of horsepower to run these. If you're using the RTX that comes from NVIDIA, you need to have an NVIDIA card. So these do take up some horsepower, and the models, once you get past the basic one, so they have like 1.4 billion, 7 billion, 50 billion, that's the bytes that it can process, also means that it takes up a lot of space on your hard drive. So you need to make sure that you have the proper space to run these. But the nice thing about these is that interfaces like Chatbox and LLM Studio allow you to choose the LLM you want to interact with, but they also allow you to point them to knowledge centers. So if you have a bunch of PDFs on your company workflow about, how you design your bids, you could point it to that as well. So not only will it be answering you based on the knowledge that it has as an LLM, but it will refer to data sources that you want it to refer to. And it could be a PDF, it could be information on your hard drive. Some of them even allow you to access them to databases that you have. So again, all of that's internally. You're not sharing your data outside of your computer. Now, we mentioned that, well, we're talking about AI today. It's hard to uncouple the idea of no code and AI. So some of the no code platforms that are out there that I've worked with, and the idea behind these, you've probably seen, if this, then that, make, Zapier is a big one. They basically allow you to take a couple of operations, tag them together, and then get a response. It's automation is really what this does. And the no code implies that you don't have to be a coder. A lot of it, if you've ever seen Dynamo, is in that kind of vein. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I do have a fun example to sort of show you here. So there's a product called Thunkable. We saw it on the previous slide. And so with that, I created a mobile app, RCP, which is random cat pictures. So essentially what this does, this is the actual interface. So it has two interfaces, one that allows you to do your design. So this is what it looks like on my mobile phone when I log in. But then it also gives you the blocks, where is like putting information together to create the task. Think of Dynamo, or if you've ever been working with your kids and using MIT Scratch, which is a coding interface that kind of goes together like Lego, looks very much like this. So this one's super simple. Basically, when you click the button, it's going to reload the screen, and then it's going to go to this URL, which is an API that gives you free cat pics, and it's going to load that cat pic. So this is what the interface looks like. And here's an actual demonstration of how the product works. So again, this is free limits to what you have, but when you're having a bad day, I can open my phone, I can take a random picture of a cat, and I'm off to the races. Yes, I'm not biased. I do have one for dogs as well. So again, that's what no coding can do for you. So we also have AI tools. We talked about this a little bit before. And the AI tools, well, I did learn about prompting and I did learn about LLMs from my 100-day adventure and the other adventures I've taken. It's really these other tools, things that I never thought existed, that I've learned throughout this interface that really sort of improved my understanding of AI. And I'm not going to go write an AI application. I don't have a degree in AI, but just that there's tools out there and how they work. And so I won't go into all of these, but I do have a couple that I want to point out. AI Humanizer, as you can imagine, when you ask an AI a question, an LLM, the response sometimes sounds very robotic. This allows you to sort of make it sound more casual, although the LLMs are getting much better at that. Ask CSV and Chat PDF are both interfaces that allow you to turn a CSV or an Excel file or a PDF into an LLM essentially, and you can have a conversation with it. Again, free versions, paid versions gives you more access. Chip we'll talk about again. I love Chip. Its ability to create a chat bot. You can also customize it and tweak it. There's a lot of things you can do with this to get it up and running very quickly. Things like Codium and Comfy UI and Cursor, Copilot. These are things that help you to code without knowing code. They have a term for it now, which is vibe coding, which essentially means that you have the ability to ask an LLM something and it will write code for you. And the difference between using one of these ones, we'll use Cursor, for example, instead of using Claude, which is amazing at writing code, is that Cursor actually lets you interact with the code. So if you've ever used VS Code, it's an open source IDE. They actually used that open source code and recreated it basically line for line, but included a very intelligent LLM in there. And you can choose what you want. So you can actually use Claude inside of that. And so not only can you ask it a question about create me a landing page, you can then keep asking it questions and it can review your entire code throughout the process. Now, one of the things to keep in mind about this is that if you're not a coding person, I am not a coding person, is that sometimes you can be asking the wrong question and be going down a rabbit hole the wrong direction. And so I've seen a funny comic out there that sort of shows the two workflows of someone that doesn't know how to code using a tool like Cursor and someone that does. And that first box shows someone that doesn't know, go, this is awesome. Build me a landing page or website. And it does. And the coder goes, this sucks. It won't replace me. And then halfway down, the non-coder is saying, hey, fix this. And you don't get the expected response. At the very end, it says, oh, this is no good. It's not giving me what I want. I'm going to throw it away. Whereas the coder goes, oh, it does the boring, redundant stuff. I know exactly how to ask it to do the boring, redundant stuff. And so now I have all this time to do the really cool stuff. So that's kind of how it works and through. The one other one that I want to talk about, Goblin Tools, a set of little AI tools, but it has one called Formalizer, which allows you to take an email, put it into the little box, and it will say, I want it to be more professional, more ad hoc. I want it to be more sarcastic. But what makes this different than other tools is it has a spicy meter, kind of like we talked about earlier with Ryan and Gronk, that you can actually adjust that to be 1 spicy or 5 spicy. It's entertaining, if nothing else, to look at that. Now, a couple here that I'm going to show in a second is Notebook LLM and Napkin. So let me tab through. So Notebook LM is a product from Google. If you have a Gmail, you can use it. And essentially what it allows you to do is it allows you to pick data sources. So in this case, I used all of the blog posts I wrote about my 100 days of AI. It then allows you to ask questions of that the same way that you would any LLM. And then it's getting the answers from the data source that you provided. You can also have it give you a study guide. It's meant to be a studying tool. So how do I study? What are the frequently asked questions? And you can see it gives us a very cool output. But the coolest thing and what it's become most known for is that it can actually create a podcast. And so what it does is it takes the information. In this case, it is 4 blog posts, but I've also taken an 1.5-hour long YouTube video. It will take the transcript or make a transcript, and then it will create an actual podcast in the voice of 2 back and forth podcasts like NPR, and it will deliver the information. And it does a remarkably good job. Let's see if we can hear.
Okay, so welcome to the Deep Dives. Today we're diving into the 100 Days of AI Challenge, but through the lens of one participant, the BIMcster. You provided their really comprehensive blog post covering all 3 phases, along with their initial kind of thoughts on microlearning that got them into it in the first place. So today we're going to extract the most valuable insights, the key AI tools, and those prep emails loaded with focus on that found.
The pre-prep framework from phase 1 definitely came back, reinforcing its.
But this does such a good job that we actually did an April Fool's joke for my podcast, and we released this as a podcast. So if you want to hear the whole 16 minutes, you can, and then we talk about the technology behind Notebook LLM at the end of it. But it's a pretty amazing tool. The other thing that we were talking about there is the idea of this napkin. And so what Napkin does, it does have a built-in LLM. That part's not the cool part. The cool part is, I have this topic that I fed it or asked it, depending on whether you posted the text or asked it to create the text. But now you can go to any of these things and you get this little lightning bolt and it will create the visuals for you real time on the fly. So it's going to create visuals for the different ways that you make coffee. And all of these were created on the fly, real time. And if you don't like it, you can tweak it. You can change the colors. I can come down to, what's the enjoying the coffee, the debugging, and you select any of these. And again, it quickly makes these visuals. So if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation or what have you, and once you decide the type of visual that you want, you can also choose the style. So how do I want it to look? Do I want it to look this way or filled in? And it's amazing how quick it does it. After you've used it a couple times, yes, there's a limitation to the way it makes it. but it's a really cool way to get information and to create presentations or handouts with great visuals. All right, let's hop back in. So we also talked about the idea of AI agents. They're a hot topic now. So basically it's an LLM and the modules. Think of those tools we just looked at, and they're put together. And so an LLM can answer questions, but it can't really do anything. Think of it as a big brain with no hands. So the modules, like some of those tools we saw, give you the ability to do things like, access your website, go to a web, answer your emails, look at your files. And so then we can put the two together to get a response. Of course, with all of this learning and all of this AI stuff, we have to remember that there's also rabbit holes. And so I learned this early on, well, about halfway through, is using AI as a research assistant or to answer questions, but the same way that you can go down a rabbit hole. I'm using it. It gives you a quick answer, which leads to another question, which leads to another answer. And 4 hours later, when I asked it what to have for lunch, I now know how to build a landing page. So just because it gives you those quick answers, it doesn't mean that you won't get distracted and go down that rabbit hole. So it's just like any other tool. You have to know how to use it and what the limits are. And in this case, I mean limits for how much time to spend asking questions and fine tuning. So another little mini interactive moment. So now you all get to play along. It's not a poll. I want you to pick your favorite LLM and take that exact quote and ask the LLM that question. Put your funny responses in the chat. Now, I asked Gronk this.
All right, mate.
And so now we're going to have
Let's get you through this without frying what's left of your laptop.
Let me turn this
Imagine you're me, Grok 3, and I'm here to save your day with bite-sized wisdom. Perfect for a BIM manager who's juggling models, deadlines, and now a coffee-soaked keyboard.
Of course.
Microlearning is like those quick, snappy YouTube tutorials you wish you'd watched before spilling that flat white. It's all about delivering training or info in small, focused chunks, think 5 to 10 minutes max, that you can digest without your brain short-circuiting. As a BIM manager, you're probably used to...
Now, I won't let it read the whole thing, but one thing that I will mention is that this is another one of the tools I learned about. It's called 11 Labs. And this allows you to create voices from prompts. So I created a prompt. I said, hey, this is the response. This is what I want. And it created that voice. And when it creates the voice, it gives you 3 options of 3 versions of what the voice could be, and you choose the best one. And again, this is on the free tier. When you get in the professional tier, it is insane. If you wanted to copy your voice or clone your voice, it's a lot of really cool things you could do. So this is a really cool way to put things in place. And remember, test it on your favorite LLM. Throw some of the entertaining responses into the chat, and we'll review them at the end.
The wrangling mat.
So now that we've sort of looked at some of the things that I learned through, found some tools, albeit again at a 10,000 foot level, how are we going to be able to make sure that we have that ability to craft our own AI journey? So first off, one of the places we might start, because many of us are probably from the AECO industry, is taking a look at some tools that exist that are helpful in our industry. Revit Wizard, for example. Now, I don't have the example here, but I use this for a presentation I did last year in Australia. And live, I asked it the question if we should download models from Revit Family. And let's just say the answer was very entertaining. Or Revit City, sorry, should we download Revit models from Revit City? It knew what Revit City was, and it told you should not. So it's also intelligent. Veris, the ability to do some real-time rendered images of what a building might look like based on what you actually have inside of Revit. Cody is really cool. It's a tool that allows you to put all of your specs inside of an AI, and we can now chat with that. So if you're doing specifications, you don't have to know all of those codes. And they're slowly uploading all the codes from different parts of North America and the world. So the code from your area will already be in there. And there's also this website called AEC AI Hub, which has in here, it says 1500. This is a little bit dated, this picture, but all sorts of tools that are AI, or I'm going to be honest, AI adjacent, that you can access and see. So it's a really cool thing that comes into place. You also want to stay current on what's latest with your AI. There's an AI for that, is an actual website. You can go there, sign up. But if it's AI, it exists here. You can search for it. You can find it. Is it paid? They have reviews. It's an amazing little place to find something you're looking for. And a lot of times it's going to be those tiny little point solutions, as we call them in the industry, where it solves a specific niche product. So worth checking out. There's another one called Useful AI. And this one is a gentleman that does a blog, spends a lot of time with AI, talking about specific tools and automations and ones that you can do. It's not updated daily, but every so often he goes back and updates his overall thoughts. You can see some chatbots there on the screen, so definitely worth checking out. And now what you want to do is you want to make sure that, I guess, the heading says, start small, think big. So you want to take action. This is the best way to start dipping your toe in the AI water. So if you're AI curious, that's how I got started. I still call myself AI curious. Just type a question into whatever LLM you're using. 5 minutes, I've put a question, it's given me a response, it got me thinking, carry on. Maybe you're looking at no code. Zapier is a great place to start and to see about putting two pieces of information together and trying to figure out. Again, it can happen very quickly. And then maybe, we want to spend that 30 minutes to give me some time to review an article about AI or no code, whatever your choice is. And if reviewing that happens in 15 minutes, hey, there you go. You got 15 minutes to enjoy a new coffee. But just to start thinking that. It also puts you in a good place if you actually take on one of those atomic challenges, which is what they call them now. I would recommend 14 Days of AI or no code. It's the closest to the 100-day challenge. It's just condensed. And the 7 days of prompting, which I just completed, which is also helpful. Again, the first of every month, free to try. So one more mini interactive moment. So what's your favorite LLM? I want to go ahead and run that last poll. And so we have the idea of ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, Gronk, LeChat, which is actually quite good. And my favorite is still Clippy, which is my favorite response. It looks like ChatGPT is pretty high on the list. We'll give it another couple seconds here. Yep. ChatGPT is far ahead, although as we mentioned earlier, it's the one that everyone kind of talks about. But the next four are kind of neck and neck race with how much we have coming back and forth and seeing what's in play there. All right. I think we can probably end that because it looks like ChatGPT is the winner here, which is interesting. Although Clippy beat out Minstrel, so that's good to know. Or maybe not, I'm not sure. So now let's go ahead and sort of bring this home, sort of last but not least, if you will. We want to make sure we understand the capabilities and limitations of AI. Again, it's a work in progress. It can get things wrong. It's getting better, so sometimes it's harder to remember to check. The golden rule of prompting, all about prompting, and this is a good one. If you want to ask an LLM something, ask a coworker or a colleague that doesn't really know about it and see if they understand it. Because if they don't, chances are the LLM isn't going to. Of course, try before you buy. Lots of free options out there, but as Ryan suggested, if the tool or platform is free, your data is the price of admission. So when you're working for your company, make sure you go through that process, just like Ryan said, to understand where your data is going and where you want to store it. And lastly, of course, we want to just do it. So no time like the present's to start, or like the present. But again, always remember to check. How many arms do we see? AI gave us 3 arms. So you always want to check, even if it doesn't hit you right away, to make sure you know what's going on. So one more little challenge is in the chat, write what's one small thing that you're going to do in the next 7 days to help you start down that AI learning adventure. And so while you're putting that last thing, I love it, watch the webinar again. While you're watching that last interactive moment, we're at the Ask Me Anything stage where I'm happy to ask any questions. And as we're going through, I just want to quickly show you the resources list again, and you can download all of that from here. So I'm going to stop talking for a brief second, and I see there's a lot of questions that have sort of popped up there. So
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that, Carl. That's fantastic. I'm definitely going to track down the atomic challenges. I said last year when you were doing the 100 days, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I never did it. I'm going to do this. 14 days, I think I can do. But thank you, Ryan, for hopping over here and answering a lot of these questions and really pushing the bounds of how small the font can get on Mural, I think, in some of these. But let's pop this one just real quick. What was your favorite part of the 100 days of AI experience, Carl?
My favorite part was the first, 14 days where you learned the new things. I was new to it. I was excited, and I learned about all these new tools like Chippy and all those things. So that got me started, and then I just sort of, kept going from there. So I think it's just getting started, really.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. There's definitely some questions about kind of legality, compressing, kind of the combined thing. And Ryan, if you want to hop in as well, this question around locally contained agents. Will they be available? Are they here already? What are we thinking?
Yes. The answer is yes. Essentially, the idea is that we saw how you had the ability to have that LLM locally, and making it an agent is the ability to have it do a task. And so you can do things like using tools like Make or Zapier or whatever to tie that into place. And again, if you have a paid account, they have the same sort of ability to protect your information. But it's also, you can use a little bit of coding. So if inside your organization you have some coding skills, you can add to that inside of it. So they're definitely there. They're not as scary as you think, but they basically allow you to automate things. They give you the brains, and then they give you something to complete the task.
Ryan, have you guys been playing with locally contained agents?
I don't want to get hung up on a term.
Okay.
So, but I think I am. No, we have not
Yep.
used agentic AI locally.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, right?
And that-
You brought up, Carl, just a lot of the stuff that we kind of already did is AI, and like it's a big bucket of a term in there. So yeah, getting on the same page I think is critical. So, all right, well, we are getting really close to 2 o'clock. This was fantastic, guys. Ryan and Carl, I really appreciate your time. Anybody knows me, I'm into good and bad sci-fi. I only experienced a minor amount of existential dread when that podcast automatically was made and started talking. That was, Black Mirror new season premieres today. I'm going to go home and watch it, but I'm going to have that in the back of my head the whole time there. So with that, thanks so much to our speakers. Thanks for sharing all the knowledge and information. This is recorded. We will post the link up on our LinkedIn page. Otherwise, thanks everybody for your time for joining us today. We hope you learned something great, and look forward to you joining us next time. Thanks.